Who is our speaker tonight? Douglas Hogan is a USMC veteran with over 30 years in public service. Among these are 4 years in the Marine Corps, where he served as an anti-tank infantryman and a marksmanship instructor, 10 years as a part-time police officer, and 25 years working in state government doing security work and supervision. Doug also teaches seminars on leadership and anti-totalitarianism, as is reflected in his best-selling books, Oath Takers and Surviving Martial Law. He can be contacted on Facebook for public speaking engagements, and he was here a couple months ago and totally blew us away. And so we are honored to have him back this evening. Please give a warm Guardians of Liberty welcome to Doug Hogan.
Rita, we'll borrow your mic. Yeah, you gotta change up.
I'm getting the live mic.
The hot mic.
The hot mic. No,
That is really loud.
Test one. Oh my gosh. All right. I got a loud voice anyway, so I'm going to hold this way down here and see how I do it. Yeah, turn that puppy down. While he's getting that ready, I just want to compliment your guys' leadership. Like I said, this is the second time I've been here, and you guys have some great leadership going on. I know there's a lot of passion. I'm fine if you guys can hear me good. Is this fine? Yeah. Okay, I'll just go ahead and keep doing this then. Again, yeah, your leadership here they got a lot of passion and a lot of zeal. I can tell that their hearts are really in this, what they do here for you guys. So they're doing a good job, and I'd like to compliment them on that. Also, as I go through this content, I remember last time I did this, I was asked to come back for this topic. So as I go through this material, there's a lot of material, probably 40 slides or more, but if I get through it, great, but there's a lot of content that's not going to be covered. It's not even in my PowerPoint, but it will be in this book right here that's going to be done. I've started it, but it's going to be done soon. So that's actually book 3 in the Patriot series. It's called The Program. It's Agenda 30. Who here knows what Agenda 30 is? Just by raising your hand. Who's heard of Agenda 30? Maybe Agenda 21. Who's cracked it open and actually read it, and they really know quite a bit about it? I'm not saying you're experts, but you've read the act. Okay, it's important that you do that. It's not a secret. It's not a conspiracy theory. Agenda 30 used to be Agenda 21. It started a long time ago in 1992. I was a 20-year-old kid in 1992, and I never heard of it. But the United Nations got together in Rio de Janeiro, and they started coming up with some buzzwords. Maybe you've heard of the term sustainable development. It's kind of the theme of the whole Agenda 30, or at the time, Agenda 21. Because in 1992, they wanted to have all countries voluntarily, I'm gonna cover a lot of this more in detail here in a little bit, but they wanted all countries on board with this voluntarily by the year 2000. And the 21 being the 21st century. So that's where it was at, and but now they've aptly renamed it Agenda 31, not to mean the 31st century. They're actually focusing on the year 2031, which is not too far away at this point. So, but as I go through this material, if there's something you think that you would like to hear again, like maybe have me come back and talk about again, let them know, and they'll reach out to me, and I'll do it for you. Because this is my wheelhouse. How many of you was here last time, heard about my surviving martial law? I sat through that. I got a lot of accolades on that. Thank you for that. And that motivated me. I was super excited to be with you guys. Like I said, you outdressed me last time. So this time, came with a flannel. She said, I was expecting you to be in a suit and tie this time. But I thought if I did that, you guys would all be in t-shirts and blue jeans. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just go down the middle. There's nothing wrong with t-shirts and blue jeans, you're right. All right, so I'm just going to turn this little flipper on here, and we're going to start going through this. So, like I said, this is going to be called The Program later on when you go to buy the book or see the book, or you hear somebody talking about my book. It's going to be called The Program because I put all this stuff on Amazon. Amazon is a very left-leaning, liberal bookseller / store. They do everything now. They're growing. They're a huge conglomeration. They're massive. They're way bigger than you might think. I'm not going to talk a lot about Amazon today, but I feel like I'm feeding the beast having my books on there. But they're the king of the jungle. So if I want to sell books and make any kind of money off my books, I go through Amazon. All right, so I'm not going to go through all this. You guys remember who wasn't here last time? Okay, I will go through this. I'm just a man on the street. I never claimed to be anybody. You know, I have a degree in theology. I have some college credits in criminal justice because I am a police officer. I just went back to the police academy for 2 solid weeks straight so I could be certified as a full-time police officer. So I got that now. I have an associate's in theology. I was in the Marines for 4 years. I was just retired from the state of Illinois working at a maximum security mental health facility. Before that, for a little bit, I was at Department of Corrections, Illinois. I went through the Department of Corrections Academy. My entire life, I've known nothing but the worst of humanity. That's all I've ever been exposed to in your beautiful faces. I'm talking about you guys. On my job, I deal with in police work. I don't get called out to, hey, we're happy today. We just wanted you to know about it. Though I get called to situations where I'm dealing with domestic violence and accidents where people have been driving drunk and a man with a gun and those kind of calls. I deal on a regular basis. I have for the last 30 years dealing with the worst of humanity. So it's not surprising to me when I hear about and research some of the materials that's in this PowerPoint. I started some time ago, 2015, researching this topic because I wrote the book Oath Takers. And after that book right there, Oath Takers, I decided to write a fictional series based off of how America would be if Agenda 21 were to happen. Where would America be if everybody who had ever sworn an oath to the Constitution suddenly decided that they weren't going to honor their oath anymore? Judges, lawyers, police officers, military guys, anybody that's ever sworn an oath decided, I don't care about the Constitution no more. We're just going to let it slide. Where would America go? And so that's kind of where I went with it. So I started researching it, and I found out how truly evil the world is. Now, the content that we're going to talk about tonight, I'm going to say it right now, we're in a deeply spiritual war. It's everything that I'm going to cover tonight, it's spiritual. And it just so happens that Satan uses men to do his dirty work. That's just how it is. It's the way of the world. I'm going to talk more about that a little bit. I'm currently a law enforcement officer. I work in Illinois. I'll tell you guys, I work West City Police Office. You know where Benton is in Franklin County? Maybe some of you might. West City is butted up right next to Benton. It used to be a little small bar town. They built an interstate through there, huge shopping centers, Walmart. It's now we got money, and Benton wants us to incorporate into them, so they're sending us Facebook friend requests. But yeah, I have years of training in emergency management scenarios with organizations like the National Incident Management System, Incident Command System, National Qualification System, Incident Resource Inventory System, FEMA, all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm an author not just of those 3 books, but probably 15, 16 titles. And I've also wrote anthologies with other people on post-apocalyptic type books. So, let's get started. So I saw a Bible in here. If you don't have a Bible in you, that's okay. You're going to recognize these verses. I don't need a Bible. I got the verses up here, but of course, I've got them labeled like you can see right here, Ephesians chapter 1, verse 21. And I'm going to read some Bible verses because, like I said, this content is spiritual. Okay? Ephesians chapter 1, 21 says, it's talking about Jesus, in the name of Jesus, is far above all principality and power and might and dominion and above every name that is named, not only in this world, but also in that which is to come. And I want to point some attention to where it says principality and power and might and dominion. Okay, because there's a lot of that. This reference in particular is to spiritual things. But not just in this world, the world in general, we're talking about what the world is also. It's a spiritual thing. Again, it sounds like I'm saying that a lot. You'll see when I start tying it all together. So, Satan has a counterfeit for everything. And it started some time ago. Ephesians 6:12, real quick here, I want to cover that. The Apostle Paul wrote, and he wrote a lot of his books from prison. He was also a very spiritual person, and he was deeply involved in the things that are unseen, as far as knowing, the wisdom that he had, that the Lord had given him. For he says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Again, he's making a reference to what the quote I just read to you right here from Ephesians 1:21. He's just going on down and touching up on it a little bit more, kind of tidying up what he's trying to say. We're not fighting against each other. I know we like to fight against the politicians, but they're just the puppets, I'm going to say, that the devil is using to accomplish his agenda, to make his goal work. He uses people, just like God uses people to get things done.
Well said.
The body of Christ, we're his arms, his legs, his eyes. We're the ones that do and go about his business. The devil does the same thing because he's the counterfeit. Going all the way back to Ezekiel. Now we're in the Old Testament, the prophet Ezekiel here. We find something interesting because God actually sends the prophet Ezekiel to the king of Tyre and tells him exactly what to say. He says, "Go to the king of Tyre and tell him this." I'm going to read this to you in case you can't see it in the back. It says, "Son of man, take up lamentation upon the king of Tyre, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty." Who's this guy that's full of wisdom, perfect in beauty? "Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering." So obviously this guy wasn't in Eden. Nobody alive when Ezekiel was in the Garden of Eden. This is a reference to something else. So he goes on to say here, "Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardius, the topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tablets and the pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created." Now he's talking about a spiritual creature that was musical, that was in the Garden of Eden. You know where this is going? Let's keep reading. "Thou art the anointed cherub that covers." Now we're getting somewhere. The anointed, Satan at the time, Lucifer as he was known, had a very specific job in heaven, was to magnify God. He was the cherub that covered and magnified God. She was so beautiful, he had all these gems inside of him, the way that God described him, that he magnified God's beauty. That was his job. The musical instruments that was inside him was to worship God. Okay? "And I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways in the day that thou wast covered, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise thou hast filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled the sanctuaries of the multitude in thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of them that behold thee. And all they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. They shall be in terror, or thou shalt be a terror, and nothing more." And the reason why I brought this here was to show you, because this is a very fine example of how Satan uses people to do his work. God sent Ezekiel to the king of Tyre to tell him this, but he wasn't exactly speaking to the king of Tyre. He had a message for the devil. And he was telling the devil that you're going to lay low, that God has your number. He knows exactly, you've fallen, and you're going to be nothing more than a terror upon the earth. Since the day Lucifer was expelled from his position in heaven, he's been on a campaign of deception and destruction, with the ultimate goal being to misguide and lead souls away from the truth. To do this, he's produced a worldly counterfeit to virtually everything God has designed to be of spiritual significance. And I've provided a few examples. This is where we start getting into the agenda, or the program, as I'm calling it. Genesis chapter 1, 27 and 28. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. 2 points I want to take from that. God created humans in his image, in his likeness. We're spiritual beings. People are spiritual beings. We like to create. We like to use our imagination. God does that too. And right here, how many sexes did he make? He made 2 sexes. Male and female created he them. Those are 2 points I wanted to make. And if Satan wanted to do something to defile mankind, he would take the image of God and do something destructive to it. That's how Satan works. He wants to knock down, destroy, and try to belittle God because he cannot have God's place in the kingdom of heaven, so he wants to establish his own kingdom right here. This world that Paul talked about a lot in the Bible right now is under temporary dominion of the enemy of our souls. And God blessed them, to Adam and Eve, and God said unto them, be fruitful and what? Multiply and replenish the earth. Now, if you were the devil and God's telling Adam and Eve to multiply, replenish the earth, what would you do in the opposite? You want to kill people. You want to depopulate the earth. Abortions. Murder. Vaccines. On and on. You see where I'm going with this. You're already grabbing onto it, and that's good, because now that you understand where I'm going with this, you'll be able to follow along better with everything that's coming up.
And also, a male with a male can't procreate.
That's the point. That's the whole male and female point that I brought up a while ago. If he can make men think that they're girls and vice versa, the procreation will stop. A woman had never had a woman with another woman. A man has never had a baby with another man. That's just how it works. You need a male and a female. It's the only way that it happens. So here, exactly the point I just made. The counterfeit at hand then is the command to be fruitful and multiply. It's been counterfeited by attempts to erase the lines between male and female. I was a preacher for 20 years. Some of you guys heard me say that last time I was here. And when I started growing my facial hair out, because when I started seeing this spiritual movement where the devil was trying to blur the lines between male and female, I wanted to grow my facial hair back out. And I wasn't allowed to preach like that. Yes, I'm not going to preach. And that's basically why the last time I preached. And it's a shame, because that's a tradition, that's a tradition of man. So, point being, there's a line out there, there's a spirit out there that's trying to blur the line, so we don't know the difference. And they're teaching that in the schools, which I understand, Kim, you taught last week on this topic. We're going to probably cover some more of that. I might overlap you a little bit.
Good.
Okay. Gender dysphoria. In recent years, we've seen a flux of virtue signals, we'll call it. There's a dominant subculture in the world that pushes the ideologue that a minority, no matter to the statistic or contrary to evidence, is subject to victimization. It's become cool to be a victim because victimhood equals righteousness. No matter the evidence or the science may prove, the victim or the group calling foul is automatically a victim and therefore on the side of moral uprightness. We see this with what's going on with the whole Gaza thing. Whatever your view is, the terrorists are the victims here. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? Yeah. They remain, because they're the minority. They're the ones that cried foul, therefore they're of uprightness. Mm-hmm. That's the movement. That's the culture that's coming up. This school of thought makes morality fluid and relevant to the group, essentially blurring the line between right and wrong, good and evil. This same tactic was used in the Garden of Eden when the serpent perverted the truth. So back to my scripture when I was reading, when God was telling Ezekiel to talk to the king of Tyre and say, you've been in the garden of God. Remember in the book of Genesis, when he took on the form of the serpent and he beguiled Eve, he tricked her into eating the fruit, whatever it might have been, doesn't say. Some might say it was an apple. She ate it, doesn't matter what it was. She was tricked into eating it. Then she took it to Adam, and Adam straight up disobeyed God. So even the most subtle deceit turns a lie into a truth. And that's with all the stuff that's going on with Agenda 30. I don't believe that everybody that's involved in Agenda 30 really knows what they're doing. I think some of them, their heart's good. They believe they're doing the right thing, but there are some that knows in the end game. But they're pulling the strings, and their strings are getting pulled. This all goes back to Lucifer. So, just a brief history lesson here. This is actually a new slide. I probably put it in my PowerPoint a couple days ago. It wasn't I taught this about a month ago, and this wasn't in it yet. But 1980, gender identity first appeared in the DSM-3 as transsexualism. A lot of medical professionals in here, you guys know what the DSM is?
Absolutely.
Diagnostic Statistical Manual. In 1990, the World Health Organization included it in the ICD-10, the International Classification of Diseases. In 1994, the DSM-4 replaced transsexualism with gender identity disorder. You see how it's kind of, we're softening the blow a little bit. We're making the words not so they're not so blunt. So we're going kind of open-handed a little bit, kind of softer to the touch, and making it feel good, a little bit better at least. In 2013, gender identity disorder was replaced with gender dysphoria. Well, maybe they won't understand what that means. We'll just call it dysphoria. But now, because I guess they haven't decided to change it yet, they've gone and moved gender dysphoria from the category of disorders. So now they're saying it's no longer a disorder. So yet another win for them. Because now they've proven, I can't say they've proven, they've convinced society, because they're a victim, that this dysphoria is not a mental disorder. And so they've taken it out of the dysphoria section, or the disorder section, and they've given it a section of its own. And that's in the 5th edition, the most recent edition that they've published.
That's like changing pedophile to a minor attracted person.
Mans, or what do they call it? Yeah. Minor attracted person. Yeah, they're trying to, and a lot of the LGBTQ LMNOP group is actually trying to accept them. You could go to some of those websites, and they're fighting for minor attracted persons, for pedophiles, people who are attracted to children. They want them in their group. It's a fringe. It's not all of them. It's a fringe. Like there's a small section that does that. Mark 9:42 says, "And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones," now Jesus is talking about the children, "offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he were cast into the sea." Now this is interesting. The Greek word for offend that Jesus used here, because everything, the Bible was originally written, the New Testament was written in Greek, okay? And that was later translated into Old English. And the different versions we have today is taken from Old English. Sometimes they go back to the original Greek and transliterate it. But the word offend here is scandalizo, which is where we get our word scandalize.
Interesting.
So if Jesus is telling you not to scandalize the children, what do you think Satan's going to do? He's going to scandalize the children. So you got guys like this, who's designing clothes like this. Satan respects pronouns, is what it says in there. Sitting on the rack at Target. They have their Pride Month, and they have all kinds of stuff over there. This was a hot topic. You could look all this up. And I usually go when I see this kind of stuff on the internet, I hijack it fast. Because once it heats up, they take it down. Oh, that never happened. And you can't find proof of it. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back to try to prove something, and I know it was there. I saw it with my own eyes. It's gone. Satan respects pronouns, it says. This really happens, and it's sad. Mark 9:42. Here we go. We're scandalizing the children. We're actually got grown men dressed like women in drag, coming and doing, well, I can't remember what this is called, drag queen reading or something. You guys, that's why I like talking to you. You teach me too. Story hour. You guys know this guy, Sam Britton and Rachel Levine? He's actually no longer the nuclear engineer. It turns out he really was mental. He went into an airport and stole some luggage to get some lady's panties out or something like that, out of weird stuff. More than once, I hear.
Probably the dress he's wearing there. Those dresses were stolen.
Yeah, that dude's obvious. You can't tell me that guy, when you're interviewing him for a nuclear position, a nuclear engineer position, doesn't have mental issues. He's confused. That's not a person. Even if he wants to have a sexual orientation towards, I don't know what it is, he can dress normal and look professional. This, same thing. So in the Bible, you know, it says with Deuteronomy, it should be D-E-U-T, Deuteronomy 22:5. Neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so are abomination to the Lord. So if God's saying this, things that are abomination to God in the Old Testament are still abomination to God in the New Testament. That's not a matter of law, it's a matter of sin. What do you think Satan's going to do? He's going to encourage people, males, to dress like females, and females to dress like dudes. Okay. How many of you have heard of the Malthusian theory? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we'll say under 10 people. Malthusian theory was developed by a man named Thomas Malthus. He was a philosopher, political economist, cleric back a long time ago. None of you knew him. February 1766 to December 1834. Malthus considered population growth as inevitable whenever conditions improved, therefore precluding real progress towards a utopian society. The power of population is indefinitely greater than the power in the earth to produce substance for men. So basically what he's saying here is that there's we don't know when it would be, but as the earth only produces so much substance, only produces so much material, so much resources, there comes a point when there's more people on earth than resources that the earth can provide us to sustain us. Right? There are experts that say that number is 500,000. I'll get to that in a little bit. Or I'm sorry, 500 million. So we don't know what the tipping point is, but Thomas Malthus believed that there's going to come a time when we'll have more people on this earth than the earth can compete with as far as resources goes, and everything will crash. But there's two schools of thought here. There's another governing globalist ideal on the population that good conditions equals popular growth, which is what Thomas believed. And there's a second one that believed that poor conditions equal population growth. All right? So let's hear what, you guys know what this guy is, right? I don't got to talk about him. I got him on here because he's talking about Thomas Malthus and the Malthusian theory, and I want you to hear what he's got to say. Oh, volume.
You're not hooked up.
I might have it muted. No, that won't work. Nope, that won't. I don't have that.
He really went downhill.
I don't have that. Okay. I don't have that connection. I'll mute it. It's okay. Basically, he's talking about, this was some years ago, he's talking about Thomas Malthus. He's talking about how the Malthusian theory, I guess he made a movie, I can't remember the name of it, Inferno, something Inferno. What is it? You can look at Tom Hanks' movie, something Inferno. But that movie's based upon this theory of the Malthusian theory here. Huh? I don't. Not on Mac.
Macs don't have aux.
No, Macs have USB-C ports, and that's it. That's all they have. Unfortunately, I don't know what they're trying to define computerism. I don't know. So what is Agenda 30? This is literally taken from this. Like again, this is not a secret. This is taken from the UnitedNations.org 2030 agenda. I'm not going to read this whole thing for time's sake. You can go there and look it up yourself. It's not a secret. But what I do want to point out here, the important thing is, you see where I've highlighted the yellow words? Remember what I said earlier about sustainable development? Sustainable development is the buzzwords of this entire program. So you got to ask yourself, what is sustainable development? Well, the whole program is voluntary. They're saying, that it's not a treaty. Oh, this is coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is an extremely liberal group. They're saying this, it's not a treaty. It has no force of law, no enforcement mechanisms, no penalties, and no significant funding. It's not even a top-down recommendation, seeking instead to encourage communities around the world to come up with their own solutions to overpopulation, pollution, poverty, and resource depletion. Nowhere in the United Nations, though, does it say anything about depopulation, or even that I can find population or overpopulation. It does say population, but not overpopulation. And there's reason for that. They don't want people like us to be onto them, right? So they don't talk about it. Instead, what they talk about is words like this: sustainable development. Keep that in mind, because those two words are buzzwords that sound really nice. Remember how I talked about how they like to soften the words up so it's easier to digest, kind of a thing. So what is sustainable development? In its simplest form, sustainable development is the delicate balance at which point humanity or humankind consumes equal portions of natural resources as the earth is able to produce them. So my question is, what's the number? Remember the Malthusian theory I talked about? We don't know what the number is. The Act never spells it out that way, though, because doing so reveals the true agenda behind the Act: depopulation. Sustainable development. Keep in mind that whole Malthusian theory, some people believe that number is 500 million people. So they're saying 500 million people. Beyond that, we're using more resources than the earth can provide. So according to those people, we've already gone over the tipping point. So the question then becomes, how can we sustain and develop if we got 9 billion people on earth? You can't. We're not shrinking as a people, we're growing as a people. Our numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The population of Earth is growing. The reason it's not spelling out the program is because the objective here is an ideology. People don't go into the World Economic Forum and talk about their ideologies. They present speakers to talk to them about topics with the ideology being the context. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They're not going to go in and talk about overpopulation. They're not going to go in and talk about depopulation. They're going to talk about other things that can help drive those numbers. Okay, who's heard of the Georgia Guidestones? The Georgia Guidestones were in Georgia. But in 1979, a stranger shows up at Elberton County, Georgia, calling himself R.C. Christian. It was a pseudonym, a completely made-up name. Nobody knows who he was. He came in with a request to erect a structure and to purchase a piece of land to build it on. The location selected was near a place called Ayili Ayi Alohi. Don't ask me to repeat that. By the Cherokee Nation, where the land was purchased. It means the center of the world, which has significance, at least to this guy. The structure was built of granite and consisted of 4 vertical stones. On either side of the stone, written in the 8 major languages of the world: Arabic, Chinese, English, Hebrew, Hindi, Russian, Spanish, and Swahili, were 10 guides to ensure humanity's survival. I kind of put this little picture up here so that you could see, oops, wrong way, kind of see what it says there. But yeah, one of the things on the stones is, be not, in English, be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature, leave room for nature. Like they're trying to emphasize, we need to stop swelling as a people. some of the things that it says. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So that's where you get some of these, the Malthusian theory, some of the numbers, some of what the experts were saying. Guide reproduction wisely. Again, more population issues. Improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Used to be one, I'm going to talk about the remaining two barriers to globalism pretty soon, but used to be, this used to be one of them. There used to be a huge language barrier, but it seems now English has become the official language of the world, and everybody's learning it. It's a lot more dominant and easier to get around when you go to other countries. There's still a lot of people that are uneducated, don't know English. I don't know a second language, I'm uneducated too. But rule with passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. A lot of these things are nice. I have no problem with all these things. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Who determines who the judges are? That's the thing. Nobody, who determines what is just? When you got all the different religions and all the different cultures, and let all nations rule intentionally, revolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking humanity with the infinite. And they never talk about, because remember, they can't say with Jesus, they got, or Allah, or whoever, they got to say with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature, leave room for nature. The Georgia guy, sorry, I thought somebody might have an echo. Somebody blew this up. I don't know if they found out who did it or not. It just was on camera. All of a sudden there's a massive explosion and it was destroyed.
2 years ago.
Yeah, it's actually some years ago. I don't know if they ever found out. I literally thought that God struck it down to the tree. That's what I thought. It could have been like lightning. These are the 17 goals. I put it on 2 pages right here. Again, I'm not going to go. The agenda is huge. You can go there and do a lot of your own research. I'm going to go through these 9 right here, flip the page, and go through the remainders. But there's 17 goals to transform our world. And if you notice, every one of these things are all driven by population. Poverty, driven by population. Hunger, driven by population. Health and well-being, driven by population. Quality education, driven by population. Gender equality. The whole problem with some of these things is there's so many different people, so many different cultures, so many different religions. This kind of stuff will never happen. It's not impossible. Clean water and sanitation. All these things. Affordable and clean energy. Decent work and economic growth. Industry, innovation, infrastructure. There's always going to be more people than there are jobs. Which is why we need wealthy people to create jobs, right, for people that don't have jobs. Reduced inequalities. Sustainable cities. I'm going to talk about sustainable cities. You guys might know them as smart cities or 10-minute, 50-minute cities.
Yeah, we don't want that.
We don't want that, you're right. Again, remember, we're in a spiritual war. So all this smart city stuff I'm going to talk about a little bit, it's all rooted in prophecy. We can't stop it from happening. I know we don't want it. It's coming. Just be ready. Climate action. We're more worried about cow farts than anything.
Keeps me up at night.
I sleep right through it. Protect life on the land. Protect life along the water. Peace, justice, strong institutions, and finally, partnerships for the goals. My wife wakes me sometimes, but erase that. Don't let that go. I'm not going to share that one with her.
I think they're probably gonna take this down anyway off YouTube.
Probably so. It won't last long. So if you believe any of those things are possible, you probably didn't miss that. But I'm talking to a smart group of people. I don't think that anybody in here thinks that any of that stuff is possible. A lot of it sounds good. They're nice, mushy words. There's some of them are soft, cuddly, and I would love peace on earth. but man can't bring it.
That's right.
Who can bring peace on earth? Only God can bring peace on earth. Talk about that in a minute also. He's got some fans in here. What's his name? Bill Gates. One of the most evilest persons in the whole world. And scariest, if you ask me. That man holding a syringe and a virus probably is a software developer. A little bit of his history here. 1975, he dropped out of Harvard and co-founded the Microsoft Corporation. 1985, introduced Microsoft Windows to compete with Apple. 1987, become the youngest billionaire at 37. 2005, awarded honorary knighthood by Queen Elizabeth. In 2006, announced he was going to give up his daily role in Microsoft to focus on humanitarian interests. And then suddenly, he starts doing this kind of stuff. The Gates Foundation announced it would donate $10 billion to vaccine research. So you have a software developer who is the youngest billionaire on earth, and remember what I said about the puppets and the strings, and suddenly his money's good for something else. All right? Now we're going to start using him. Oops, I would do that. So right here, in 2018, he begins buying land. Now, you might have double checked me on this because I went back and I don't know where I saw that. I wouldn't have put it in here if I didn't find it. But 242,000 acres across 18 states, and I don't know if he's the largest landowner anymore. Okay, that's a lot of land for a software developer. Involving himself in vaccines and anthropology and that kind of stuff. Why?
And the water.
Yeah, we'll touch on water a little bit. We got some water systems, some water buying up, and some water control issues, and it falls right in line with the control. All this is about control, every bit of it. In 2018, he donates $4 million to Oxitec to fund genetically modified mosquitoes. True story. That's not a lot of money for him, but that's a lot of mosquitoes. In 2020, he announced he was leaving Microsoft to dedicate more time to philanthropic priorities. That's exactly what we need. Not. In 2020, 250 million genetically modified mosquitoes were released into Florida. We can only read what they were modified to do. It's up to you to believe what you're reading. Because whatever he did or whatever Oxitec did with those mosquitoes, the truth behind it we may never know. It could be a test run just to see if they can spread. It might have been. I think it was nefarious. I think the intentions were nefarious. But maybe those 250 million mosquitoes aren't carrying anything necessarily. But they wanted to maybe see what the impact could be of whatever they did here, so that later on down the road we can make a serious impact. That's my thoughts on it anyway. So here we go, back to the like I said, English used to be one major barrier rather. And can anybody guess what the other two major barriers are? I touched on one of them a while ago.
Weapons.
Nope. Any others?
God.
We'll say religion.
Her faith.
Religion's one major barrier. People, I'm not going to give up my Christianity. I'm not. And Jesus told me not to, and I'm not going to. There's other religions in the world, though, who believe the same way. That means I can't live their way, and they can't live my way. If you're Muslim, for example, and you believe in populating the earth, do you think the United Nations is going to find fault in that? Because if they need to get the numbers down so we can have sustainable development, but we have a people that's trying to build the earth, populate the earth, that's a problem. The other one is the economy. You guys seen what Russia and China have been working on lately? They've been trying to come up with their own, I forget what it's called, so I know the word for it. BRICS. Yeah, they're trying to knock out the US dollar, which is already fragile. Our system is no longer backed, I don't care what they say, our system is no longer backed by precious metals like the Constitution says. You can't print, what are we in debt, $40 trillion?
lost 96% of the US dollar's value since 1911.
Okay.
Google that. That's
You look like a smart man because you got a beard.
Well, that's a lot. I mean,
Yeah, it is a lot.
You can Google it. It's on the government website.
That's
It's
because they
fact.
keep printing it,
Yes,
and it's not going back.
it won't, and that's my point, because how many, I hope you don't, I'm not trying to be smart, I'm a jokester, okay? I'm trying to, the other millions, or I'm sorry, the $40 trillion in debt or whatever it is these days, you can't tell me we have that much in precious metals in this country. There's not that many stars in our galaxy. And that's insane. And they're printing, like you said, the dollars, the wheels are constantly turning on that machine, constantly printing money, trying to buy our way, but all they're doing is decreasing the price of the dollar. So the more money they print, the less it becomes, the less worth it has.
And it's a private entity that's printing it.
Yes, and we're gonna talk more about that a little bit. I don't know, I'm not a really financial tech person. I can't talk a whole lot about the reserve, the financial reserves, the central bank and all that stuff, but we're gonna talk a little bit about that towards the end here. Of the two major barriers, what needs to happen to destroy a strong economy? Well, we need things like fiscal waste. We need things like inflation, what you just brought up here with the printing of more money and mandating minimum wage. What happens when the government tells somebody, say a small business owner, that's not making all, has 2 employees, he now has to pay that person $15 an hour. He's gonna have to raise the price of his material, of the things he's selling, or fire somebody. That's the only way he can sustain. And if that doesn't work, he has to close.
You look at California, they're trying to drive minimum wage up to $20, even $50. And you realize what's going to happen now. You go into, let's say, your local grocery store, and you're going to be paying twice what you're paying now for what you're regular grocery store. Maybe, twice, maybe more.
Yeah.
Because they're having to make up the difference by paying the minimum, for paying the higher minimum wage. And
Yeah. You have to increase the price of your
what
product.
they get is that the more they drive that wage up, the more it's going to cost. Because that's how economics works.
Yep. That's how inflation works, folks. All right, the illegal migrant thing that's going on in the border. This is planned. I believe the idea to do this, I don't think it's something new. I think that this has probably been in the works for some time. The United Nations is actually funded. You see this is actually a new addition here, this little slide right here. But they're actually dropping documents to these when they're over in their country with details on how to get to the United States. Follow this path, go here, this country, turn here, do this, go on this bus, take this train. And it drives them right to the United States, where they're just walking in. Then you got states like Texas who have a constitutional right to protect their borders, and then the government's coming back in with their forklifts, lifting the fence up, right, to condone and allow that illegal activity. I love immigrants, but I just want them to do it legally and lawfully. When all of us came here, not us, there might be some immigrants in here, but our ancestors came here from somewhere, unless you're Native American and all of your, you can trace it back, but we all came from other countries. All right, how many seen this before?
We've had several presentations.
Okay, so I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on it, but these 10 foods right here, these 10 food industries control almost everything that you eat. So the idea of choice is actually an illusion. It's not gonna take a whole lot of work to get those 10 people to do whatever they want to with these. Have you guys ever seen the ingredients in American products when compared to the ingredients in, say, Sweden or England? Yes, they put a lot of junk in ours. And you're like, why? Yeah.
Population.
Slowly killing us. You guys are smart. I like you guys. So I'm gonna keep coming back.
Okay.
There's no audio here, which is fine.
Can you put your microphone to that?
I think so.
Real quick while he's doing that, I just wanted to let you know that, so when I gave a speech over the summer, we were at 95 or 96%. An update as of today, it's got a calculator that tracks it. We've lost 97% of the value of the US dollar since 1911 as of now. So we're getting close to, that's how fast it's advanced since the summer.
Plus, we're printing $1 trillion every 90 to 100 days.
The crash is imminent,
Yeah.
which is, again, we're gonna go into another topic towards the end of this. Can you guys hear that a little bit? They're basically saying that the COVID shot is good for you. It doesn't cause you to get sick. If you get it, you won't be able to spread it no more. All lies.
And it's not a vaccine.
Another part of the depopulation agenda.
Yes, exactly.
This is just the beginning of, there's something else coming up here I want you to check out.
Can you send us those links that you have?
Yep. This is the part I actually wanted you to watch. All these guys are vaccinated. Watch this.
Oh, yeah. Start falling over. Oh. Yeah, I kind of see things.
You guys are gonna see people die. You okay with that? Just letting you know.
But they're already dying. We've seen so much. Yeah, it's like they're hearing something.
That's what happened with basketball.
You know what it looks like when someone has a
No,
brain,
that's
when
bad.
someone has a brain bleed, their eyes look towards the bleed. You know, that's what it, when you have a brain bleed,
That's
they always look
interesting.
towards the side of the brain.
They've been pulling huge clots of whatever,
Yeah.
like protein-looking stuff out of veins.
It's like huge
Yeah.
worms.
By the way, this is from a documentary called Died Suddenly.
Yes.
And you can find this on Rumble because just about every other platform is taking it off the air.
What are most of them dying from?
The COVID vaccine.
These are all the COVID shots that were mandated. Not everybody, of course, you know, that has taken this shot has died, but all these guys took the shot or have just died suddenly. So she passed away unexpectedly. A bus driver with passengers. Another bus driver with passengers. Another. A lot of jobs and businesses were mandating this of their employees.
Just think of all the airline pilots that have to take vaccines in a year.
I wonder how many crashed, you know, we don't really know.
And then you have people that died slowly from getting it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was just,
Turbo cancers.
I can't remember who I was talking to a while ago. I have a friend that was working in the state of Illinois with me, and they mandated, I refused, I was under threat of termination for 3 years. But he took it, and it activated a dormant gene or whatever inside of him. He got leukemia. He had it, but it activated it. So he's now very sick.
Did you say this called Died Suddenly?
Died suddenly. You can go to just died suddenly, Rumble, or Google it like that, you'll find it.
how many of these people are they actually attributing to the COVID shot, though?
Oh, no.
That's,
I'm not following your question.
how many people, of these people, do they even attribute those deaths to the COVID shot?
These ones right here they did on the documentary.
On the documentary?
Yeah.
But,
So the news was reporting it. That's, they got it from news that said these people have the AstraZeneca shot or whatever. But again, do we believe what the media tells us? Because, watch this. I know you can't hear it. I wish I could really turn that up.
Mockingbird.
All these people are saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, exact same words.
Extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Because what, 5 or 6 companies control all the news outlets?
Right. So
Yeah.
they're all saying the exact same thing right now. They're all being spoon-fed this narrative, and they're taking it and they're spoon-feeding it to us.
Right. And we're believe it. Some of it. Not all.
He's saying these news media outlets publish the same fake stories, and now they're all saying that same exact line.
That's why I don't like the news.
You can't trust anything. And with the advent of AI, which is, I think, well, actually, I'm getting into that too here tonight, so I gotta carry on. All right. 6 companies own almost all the media. National Amusements, Disney, Time Warner, Comcast, News Corp, Sony. Look at all these little logos inside of here. Those are all the companies owned by these guys over here. So everything that we're being fed, everything that we're hearing, it's all coming from the same people. Okay. Who knows what the Shema is? Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. It's the most sacred verse to the Jews. So when God brought the children of Israel out of 400 years of slavery and bondage in Egypt, he told them right here in Exodus 13:16, he says, and it will be a sign, and it will be like a sign on your hand and a symbol on your forehead that the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his mighty hand. Okay, so basically God is telling his people to wear this on their forehead in their hand. And that's what you see the Jewish people here. They actually made this little phylactery thing here, and they, when they pray, they took it quite literally, and they wear that on their head when they pray, and they put it in their hand right here. Some they wear it in their arm. But here, the Lord saved his people from Egypt. And Egypt, if anybody's ever studied the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, there's a lot of typology. Yeah. Egypt is symbolic of sin and slavery, servitude, like we were before we gave our lives to Christ. We were indentured to sin. We were slaves to sin. We were lost, but Jesus freed us. And so he commanded his people to memorialize the occasion by wearing this on their hand and their forehead. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Okay. Now I want to fast forward to Revelations. One quick note here. Coincidence maybe. What's Exodus what?
13:16.
Exodus 13:16. Revelation what? I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Because what Satan is doing here in Revelation, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, talking about the Antichrist, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Whoa. There, perfect. Who said that? 5 points for you. That's Satan's counterfeit. God said this, so what's Satan going to do?
Same thing.
Not so fast, God. He's got a kingdom on earth where God is ruling in heavenly spiritual things. The devil's got a temporary dominion here. And he says, okay, I got a mark too. And so he causes all, it says to receive a mark in the right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. That's why I was talking about this eclipse that's coming up in April. Probably coincidence, it's 6 years, 6 months, 6 days since our last eclipse. Everybody's freaking out, oh, 666. I don't freak out about that kind of stuff because I always fall back on the Bible. I always weigh what I hear with what the Bible says. Always. And the Bible clearly says right here that the mark is what? The name of the beast. Somehow, the number is equated to the name of the Antichrist. Somehow, some way. I have an idea what it might be, and I'm going to explain it here in a second. Who's heard of RFID chips? Radio frequency identification. This is a technological gadget which is currently being implemented in some businesses. They allow volunteers, some military have done this also, to take a device, a chip, into their hand. They can literally go to work, check in like that, walk up to a vending machine, say, oh, I would like a Kit Kat. Punch your number in, get their Kit Kat, and it's deducted automatically. How you say? You see this right here? This is going to be antiquated soon. But that number right there tells a computer, like a reader, what that number tells the computer what product is being sold. So that number is always tied to a product. Same thing with this. Every person will have a number in that chip. All your information is not going to be stored in that. It's not going to have all your medical information, all the websites you visited, all your friends, all your health care, every purchase you've ever made, how much money you have in your bank, what kind of car you drive, how many people are in your family, your siblings, your mom or dad, who's deceased. No, that's not going to be in that device. You're going to have a number in that device. That number, though, will go back to a server that will have all that information about you. Just like that number tells the computer what item is being sold and what that item is, the number that's in that is going to have all your personal information attached to it. So they will scan that, and the reader will say, okay, and they'll throw that number to the machine, the server. The server will say, oh, that's Jan Farrar. She's got a history of being awesome. She's a member of the Guardians of whatever, those people. You see what I'm saying?
She's a troublemaker.
She's a troublemaker galore.
She had trouble with a hotmail.com.
They'll know all of that. So yeah, then what happens? Well, they'll have complete control of the economy in this digital currency. I'm going to get into that in a second. They'll be able to control the food and the water. Over 90% of all food supplies are owned by 3 companies. Remember that? 10 own it all. And then they'll be able to control healthcare, especially if it's government. Remember when the Obamacare thing came out and everybody's freaking out? Didn't like any of that because I have a podcast called The Rising Republic, and I had a guy from Canada on my show, and I was talking to him about Canadian healthcare, and it's awful. I don't want it. Because what they do is the government will line out where you will be in that line. If you're young and healthy, you get to go to the front because we need you back in the working lines. If you're retired, back to the bus. Because you're no longer contributing to society. In fact, you're financial taxation. You're financially taxing us. You see how that can be bad?
Yep.
When the government controls and regulates, the government's got you.
To a degree, they do that now, Doug.
Yeah, they do.
We're getting, yes, and it's getting worse. I mean, it's been progressive. It's not like they slapped this on us all of a sudden. It's like an ebb and flow. They're kind of chipping away at our rights and kind of graduating us into things. And so a lot of us are just kind of playing patsy cake with this because we're not taking it very seriously because it's moving so slow.
Frog in the water.
It's like we're drifting. And you don't really know how far you've drifted till you wake up from your nap and go, oh my God, where's land?
Frog in the pot.
Huh?
The frog in the pot.
Frog in a pot. Yeah, you guys heard that analogy. You put a frog into a pot of water and just start, because he's cold-blooded, he just gets used to the heat. Before long, he's food. Good legs. Frog legs. Yeah, but basically for this RFID system, the data is stored within an RFID chip and it waits to be read. The tag's antenna received electromagnetic, so there's like a little antenna that's inside of the chip. And there's a reader. Your body, you know your body's a magnet or an energy, it's like a battery. Everybody generates electricity in their body. Well, this electromagnetic energy from the RFID reader's antenna, it draws its power from your internal battery, harvested from you, and creates an electromagnetic field, and the tag sends that radio wave back to the reader, and the reader picks up the tag's radio wave and interprets the frequency as meaningful data. So in a nutshell, the chip is telling the reader what's going on, what's inside that chip by the number that's attached to it. Okay. The reason why, there's, like I said, I'm never going to cover everything that's in Agenda 30 or about Agenda 30 in this group. But it will be in my book. I'm going to have a lot of stuff in my book when it's done, but there's no way to cover it. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of cogs in this. But I'm going to cover it. This is very important because it's happening so fast. Our technology is advancing rapidly. It's doubling all the time. You notice your phones. I used to have remember the giant things with the antenna? Okay. And now this is actually bigger than some other phones, but they got small now. I think big is coming back again, but they're able to compact more stuff into smaller devices now. So when you start hearing terms like blockchain, know that we're getting close. Because blockchain is a shared immutable ledger that facilitates the process of recording transactions and tracking assets in a business network. An asset could be a tangible, a house, car, cash, land, etc., or intangible, such as intellectual property, patents, copyrights, branding. Virtually anything of value can be tracked and traded in a blockchain network, reducing risk and cutting costs for those involved. So it basically cannot be altered or manipulated. In other words, the reason why this is so cool is because if I program data with blockchain, Jan can't take it and change the coding on it to make it do something else. She can't cheat me because it's already been coded. It's immutable. It cannot be changed. And that came from IBM.com, so it's a good source, right? If I want to learn about computers, I go to IBM.com. Greater security. Consensus on data accuracy is required from a network. All network members and all validated transactions are immutable because they are recorded permanently. No one, not even a system administrator, can delete a transaction. Once it's happened, it's there forever. Nobody can change it. It's immutable. The Internet of Things. When you start hearing about Internet of Things, they're already working on smart cities.
10 years ago.
I'm not going to go through all this. Look up Internet of Things. These are new terms or buzzwords.
10
But,
minutes.
huh?
10 minutes.
10-minute cities?
No, you have.
Okay.
left.
I get there. Big data, IBM.com. Big data analytics is the use of advanced analytic techniques against very large, diverse big data sets that include structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data from different sources and are different types from terabytes to gigabytes. Pretty simple, again, from IBM.com. All right, smart cities. These are the things that you're going to be seeing when we start getting into the smart city era, which I think we're pretty already there. Artificial intelligence is a big thing right now. I see crazy things all the time on artificial intelligence. It's getting to the point where a lot of the experts are saying they're creating intelligence that's able to think on its own, and this is like some real Terminator stuff.
You don't know what's real anymore.
No, and that's another thing I was thinking about is, because the Bible will talk about the false prophet pulling fire from heaven.
Yep.
How far are we from holograms? Apparently, he's going to fool a lot of people doing this kind of thing. And it makes you wonder. You can't even believe. You could. What was it saying? Believe nothing you hear and half what you see. You literally can't believe anything you see anymore. I don't believe anything I see on my phone or on a computer. I have to see it with my own eyes, and then I'm even skeptical. Go to Google, because this don't have audio, I'm not going to show you. But this thing's going to be it's in Saudi Arabia, and the prince there, Prince Saud, he's wanting to build 170 mile, I think it's like 4 miles wide, 3-4 miles wide. It's called the Wall, or I think it's called the Wall. and it's 170 miles long.
Is it Noam or Neom.com?
This,
In Saudi Arabia, the 15-minute city, all self-contained. Can you go to NOEM.com or NOEM.com?
I'm not gonna pull up the video now, because it's gonna take too much time. But, yeah, so this is gonna be like the king of smart cities. And this is just an introduction of what he's planning on doing, but you'll be able to pretty much get to anywhere in Saudi Arabia in just a matter of a few minutes. But Google that, I wanna say it's the wall or something like that. The line, there it is, the line. He's basically taking a city, all this space. See how he's doing it there? 9 million residents, he's gonna throw into it. So look at the human footprint is decreasing. Seems like a good idea. The line, yep, go to YouTube, put the line, Saudi Arabia, the line.
And then the government will capture or rewild the remaining land.
Yes.
Won't allow people to use those, and those plans are in the works for the United States too.
Yep.
In different states.
Yeah, this is coming from everywhere. This is coming to all of us. I mean, you're not gonna be able to stop it. Genesis 11:1-5, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east. We're going back again, remember the Tower of Babel? That's what this is. That they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there, and they said one to another, go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, go, let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach into the heaven, and let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad from the face of the earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men build. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they all have one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have managed to do. It was God that confounded the languages of men, because people are evil. And when everybody has the same language, and the same culture, and the same beliefs, and the same ideals, and everything is aligned, God himself said their imaginations cannot be restrained.
Yeah.
They're capable of doing great things. The problem with that is they had just come out of a flood, and they wanted to save themselves. If God was to ever flood the earth again, they could just climb up the tower and be saved from a flood. But remember, man cannot save himself, right? Only God can save us. Agenda 30 is about control of the population and population control. Although it may seem like a good thing to save the world, we cannot save it. In that SDG is the Sustainable Development Goals, is a smack in the face of God. It's the very reason for that the agenda will fail as long as there are religious idealists standing in the way. To us, I mean, to the United Nations, World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, we're extremists.
Yeah, they need to get rid of us.
Because our minds aren't pliable. Anybody that is free thinking and is able to think of their own and have free will, we're a problem. Globalism cannot be contained with the barriers, attained with the barriers of religion, language, and economy. But that will not stop the spiritual powers in high places from trying to undermine God. They will continue to move against mainstream religions, work to reunify the languages of the earth, and to build a one world economy where good deeds can't be privately managed and the churches can't be financially supported. Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. In a digital one world economy, nothing is private and everything will be controlled by the government. Colossians 3:17, Paul told the Colossian church, says, whatsoever you do in word or in deed, do all in the name of Jesus. So we see here that the one world religion, the world economy that is coming, the one world government that's coming, that's not going to stand. And then he told the Corinthian church, know ye not that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy. So if God is saying that our body is the temple of God, and he's putting his mark in us, you see the counterfeit there? Lucifer's trying to take over us. because we are God's creation. He's going to try to make us in his image. He's going to scandalize the children. He's going to put his mark in us. He's going to try to bring the people back together. God scattered the people. The devil's going to try to reunite them. He's trying to undo everything with the counterfeit that God has done. That's how he works. This is the name of the beast. It's about control. So, this is what I need you guys to do. And Jan, whoever can talk about this. We need to, I coined this little term here, resist the switch. How many of you have heard of the central bank digital currency system? If you know legislators, if you know Congress people, senators, representatives, urge them to resist this at all costs. Because with this central bank digital currency system, you will lose everything. This is the beginning of the end. Once there is a digital monetary system, and that thing goes in your body, or they try to put it in your body, it's over. The whole point of Agenda 30 is control. It's about depopping. And once they have this in you, they can control everything. They can turn off your bank. They can stop you from buying food. They can stop you from buying water. They control everything. They can completely shut off your assets. At least see if they can work on amending the Federal Reserve Act to prevent this from the central bank digital currency system. At least at minimum, amend it so this can't happen. Urge congressional leaders to block legislation that gives way for the central bank digital currency system. Like I said, we're going to lose all privacy. There'll be no more private sales. You won't do anything in private. The government will always know what you're buying. You will lose freedom because they don't like what you're buying. They'll turn you off. They'll see everything that you're doing, everywhere you go. And not only that, but there'll be an uptake in cyber problems. If you guys want to reach out to me, follow me anyway. I'm at facebook.com/honoryouroath. I have a website, ldhogan.com. Again, my podcast is Rising Republic with L. Douglas Hogan. Instagram, l.douglashogan_author. And these are some other things I'm going to be throwing a sneak peek into Agenda 30. So I'm going to give this back to you, and we can do whatever you want, question and answer, whatever you want to do.